So thanks everyone for joining. Welcome to How to Win Visibility in the Age of GEO and AI Discovery, hosted by NOVOS in collaboration with Glara and YuMOVE. My name is Dan. I'm the Delivery Director at NOVOS. We're an e-com SEO and now paid agency who have for many years now been helping clients to win visibility in traditional search and more recently in the age of AI search as well.
Cool. I'll go next. My name is Wlad. I'm co-founder and CCO at Glara. We're an AI search and visibility tool specifically for e-com. I've been in tech for the last 10 years, and at Glara, I work closely with e-com brands and partners and help them make the most of our product and get up to speed on AI search on a product and SKU basis.
Hi, I'm Abhishek Prasad. I work for YuMOVE. I'm the SEO Manager here. I've been working in the industry in SEO for close to 15 years, maybe over. And we are the pet healthcare supplement brand in the UK.
Great. As we go, we'll have a Q&A open and we'll pause at the end of each section to answer a couple of questions. And we'll also, if we have time, have some questions at the end as well. If there's any questions that don't get answered, please feel free to follow up with any of us, and we'll do our best to get back to you. But hopefully we can answer a lot of your questions as we go anyway. So first things first, sort of what is AI search? What are we talking about? Well, for us, AI search is like a broad term that focuses on every element of LLMs. So this includes like GEO, AIO, AEO, all the different variations that you may have heard. It also includes Google AI mode, Google AI overviews, as well as other LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, etc. Fundamentally, our position is that no brand has good presence in LLMs at the moment without having good SEO. And so the approach fundamentally does remain the same. You need really good tech, you need really good content, and you do need links and authority. However, the lens has slightly shifted and the priorities to look at has shifted. And that's what we'll be covering today, exactly what those priorities are and how you can go about tackling them. So first things first, the search technology itself has changed.
Yes, and for e-com brands specifically, the scale of this is enormous. So the slide says 900 million users weekly on ChatGPT. I think Reuters reported yesterday that they crossed 1 billion in monthly active users. 55% of all queries are product research, and nearly 1 in 7 is actually commerce focused. And every query you have is a moment where your brand can either be part of the answer or it can be invisible.
Nice. And we're seeing, you might have seen yourselves, fewer clicks generally are now coming through. Google AI overviews are now owning 58% of clicks, which historically you would have got. I think this fundamentally changes how people are searching. They're sort of staying in LLMs a lot more, using AI to sort of refine their search and search in much more specific ways. But it also will change how we measure success because we're not getting that feedback loop of clicks that we were before. So it changes how the customers approaching things, but also changes how we need to approach things and how we measure success in AI search. And yes, it's not just organic that's been affected either. With AI Max, Google Ads is now impacted by changes on your website. So AI Max uses your website content as a core input, and it will return different landing pages dependent on your content. What this means is investing in improving your on-site content will not only be beneficial for SEO and AI search, but can also be beneficial for your paid channels and other channels as well.
Sorry, Dan, I'll just interject here. We're using AI Max at YuMOVE to good effect. We're using it where we having gaps in rankings, and AI Max will serve an ad, but it's obviously AI tailored ad copy that's using. We're seeing some really good conversion rates, better conversion rates actually through AI Max for sort of even awareness content than we would through organic.
And have you changed your content specifically with AI Max in mind?
We have, yeah. We're doing bits and pieces. It's just finding the balance, it's still fairly new. I think we've been doing this over the past maybe 4 or 5 months. But that's the thing, everything's moving at such a pace. We're just refining, testing, refining, testing.
Oh, yeah. So we all know that content drives your organic AI visibility. Um, then there is a Claude pop up on your screen.
Good.
We also
Quite relevant.
just we, we just also saw that content can drive your ROAS in AI Max, but there's also this new ad format. I call them chat ads. And the interesting part here is that only content determines the outcome of an auction or an intent match. So here, this is the ChatGPT self-serve form for setting up an ad. You see that you only provide context, the landing page URL, and ad title and copy. So no keywords, no negatives. Everything that determines whether you're matched to a conversation, whether your ad is matched, is content. And yeah, essentially you have one optimization, but you are having three places where this pays off. Organic visibility, AI Max, your ROAS, and the new LLM ads.
Great. Do we have any questions come in before we move on to how this is adapting or how customers are adapting?
Yeah, we had one question from Jade, and she would love to know how you think the Google AI mode, the new Google AI mode search box will change ads.
Yes, so I can say something here. We look at those as chat ads and essentially LLM ads. So this is a new way of matching ads to conversations, not keyword based, as opposed to AI Max, which impacts Google search. So it's a new format, and I think it will have better intent matching rather than just keyword matching. So in a way, content becomes more important, but also the outcomes should be better.
Okay, nice. Well answered. If anyone has any questions throughout the webinar, just pop them in the box and I will read them out for the guys as we go along. Thanks, lad.
Cheers. So, yeah, so how customers are searching has also changed off the back of this new technology. So customers have moved from some sort of searching with keywords, which tend to be quite short, quite broad, and then sort of doing the rest of the search themselves via visiting different websites, to really contextualized searches, which are very situational, very personalized as well. People are asking exactly what they want to find and then are expecting to be returned with that. So the behavior has really adapted from previously to now with AI search.
Yes, and shoppers from AI search are more valuable than your average visitor. AI search won't necessarily send you more traffic, but the traffic that does come through is more important. You have, and this data is from Shopify's Q1 report. It's super interesting. You have journey compression. So people are more likely to start on a PDP. So they start further along the funnel. And when they start on a PDP, they're also more likely to start on the correct PDP and are less likely to switch around products. That leads to higher conversion rates, 49%. And the bottom line is that you have higher AOVs. So that's the trade-off essentially, quality over quantity, and quality, as Shopify shows here, is quite outstanding.
And we're seeing something very similar at YuMOVE. In terms of impressions, we get a lot of our awareness content gets a lot of impressions on LLMs, but in terms of actual clicks through to the site and engagement, the vast majority of content are our product pages and our collections pages. And year to date, we've been growing month on month in terms of purchases coming from LLMs. And it's one of our highest converting channels. So I think the quality is really, really qualified by the time it makes it onto our site.
Yeah, it's quite an
And
interesting shift. Sorry, Vlad, you go.
no, and I just want to say I see a question from Emily, which I can answer right away. This data is from Shopify for Q1, and they compare conversion rates from AI search to traditional search.
Yeah,
I can share the URL afterwards.
Nice. Yeah, it's a really interesting transition, I think, from like traditional search. It used to be very category led, whereas now, yeah, because people are getting the answer direct, and as you say, it's like qualified. The shift is definitely it's definitely gone towards more product led. I guess the balance is then like you don't want to completely forget about your categories, because as sort of traditional search, Google still has a massive footprint, but it's about then looking like how do you then improve your PDPs. I think that the shift in focus is big there. So what has and hasn't changed in terms of SEO from before to now in the last couple of years? Well, fundamentally, the foundations remain the same. You still need the basics of SEO, the foundations of SEO to be discovered. Your tech needs to be a really solid place. You need content, both on-site content, supporting content to reach your customers, to give them the information you want. And you also need links to build authority. Google was really built on links, their whole PageRank system, and that hasn't changed. You still need that for traditional search, and then to have the foundations for AI search. From the tech side, just to give a quick example, JavaScript, or not making sure that you don't overuse JavaScript or you don't serve critical information via JavaScript, is really important. Google got quite good at it. It could render most JavaScript, not all, most. But LLM crawlers are much less sophisticated, and so like they may not see content on your website if it's rendered using JavaScript. Example on the left here, this information could not be seen by LLMs, and it was really critical information on a category page on a website. A good way to test this is you can just ask. I asked Claude to sort of get the point across here. It says I literally can't see it. It's hidden but behind a dynamic tab. So a good sort of example of how getting your tech right is crucial to make sure that your visibility, you can be seen by LLMs, and then your visibility in LLMs is as high as it possibly can be. But what has changed? So it's not enough just to be discovered now. You also need to be seen to be relevant. So RAG is a system where LLMs use search and then their own systems to identify who's out there and who's relevant for a given term. I think then your content needs to go into much more depth. We kind of discussed product pages becoming much more important. You really need your product pages to become a storefront and give a lot of information, a lot of in-depth information and signposting information that people are searching and LLMs are looking for in order to be returned. And on top of that, you then need to be a brand authority to actually get mentioned when LLMs are returning their results. And this isn't just sort of an overall big brand. This is sort of an authority within a niche. We'll go on to discuss some elements of how you can track that and how you can do that. Yeah, it's no longer enough to sort of just have a big backlink profile. You need to be cited in the right publications, which are themselves authorities within a given space. Before we move on to sort of the measurements, I don't know if any other questions have come in, Kathy.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions in. So Dan asked, what impact will reviews have on context in a search? So if you got a detailed answer on a PDP page, like structured snippet style, would that be enough to rank on Google, depending on the niche, or is that day gone?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think the answer is basically it becomes much more of a combination of factors. So I think got a slide right at the end, which is like, so I guess this is, well, you get your own side, which is what you have on your own site. I think that's becomes a big thing, like signposting the relevant content on site. You then have the sort of earn side, which is reviews. And I think it becomes a combination of sort of, yeah, what is the sentiment of your brand? What is the sentiment of your brand within this category? And so reviews will have a lot of importance within that context. It's not just good or bad. It's customers say XYZ about this product in XYZ circumstances. So I think they can be really useful to leverage. Like if you don't have reviews, I think most people do nowadays, but really important to sort of get that experience across, which I think is really, really valuable. But yeah,
We've
combination.
sorry, Dan, we've placed quite a bit of importance on reviews, customer reviews. We obviously have like Trustpilot integrated into the site, and it's all marked up with schema, and that's sort of throughout the site. It's not just on PDPs. But we've also done some work with social, bringing videos onto the site, sort of spreading out the reviews across different mediums. So I think it's just another trust signal. It's great for the user, but also from a crawler point of view, I think it works really well to sort of re-enhance any authority.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. And Stasha has a question that follows up quite nicely from that. And yeah, if AI search increasingly rewards brand recognition and authority, does that mean the future is not necessarily the brand with the best SEO, but rather the brand who is most effective at paid media, PR, content, as well as their SEO?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's additive for sure. So I don't think you can do without SEO, but um, the the playing field is now widened, and you need to be doing more things. It's like imagine going in football, going from 11 players to 16. Like it's not that you can forget about the old 11. You just need to be doing more, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think our competitor landscape in LLMs in AI is a lot broader. Looking at some of the names popping up that we're competing with, are that some of them very specialist, and I think that's the benefit of LLMs is that it doesn't just weight towards sort of someone with a historical domain and loads and loads of brand awareness, which they can gain from TV ads and because they may have larger budgets as well. Yeah, I think LLMs really brings out real specialist niche uh, sort of niche corners of the market. Because their search terms that they're going after are a lot more nuanced.
yeah, I agree. On that context, I massively see it as an opportunity, rather than being dominated by massive websites all the time. Like there's an opportunity for brands to really have their space.
Yeah, I think gone are the days of best pet supplement, for sure, in the context of LLMs. And we have a couple more questions, but I think we'll move on for now and we'll get to those in the next section.
Brill. Thanks, Kathy. So yeah, with the changes in organic search, the measurements of success are also changing. And SEO and AI search is increasingly becoming a discovery channel versus a performance channel. You're not necessarily getting that feedback loop of clicks all the time, but you definitely want to be present when and where your customers are searching and when they're making decisions. An example here for the Body Shop, they're not, they are basically that sort of the first brand you see, even though they're not ranking in the number one spot for this high volume term. So what it means is, I think obviously revenue sessions will always be to some extent used, like absolutely, like that's the aim of the game to grow revenue. But I think for success, metrics shift towards more brand channel metrics, things like impressions, visibility, share of voice, particularly with AI search. It then becomes like a combination of the two to determine like, are we growing? Are we being successful within this space? A good sort of hat tip to this is just this week, Google released their generative AI tracking. And what they have given us is impression tracking. What they haven't given us is click tracking yet. I guess like I'll pass to the guys to get your take on that. But I think what it does show is like that sort of visibility and like discovery metrics are already being prioritized by Google to show how the performance of brands are doing within AI search.
Yeah, I think the going out with the impressions first up was a strong move from Google. It'll be good to see. I think they're going to be looking at engagement metrics in general for AI. That's probably why they haven't released the next set of metrics that will complement this. But it's great that they're giving us something, because we've had a long time of having to sort of manually dig into data to come to some sort of conclusion of what
Yeah.
how we're being seen in AI.
Absolutely. Do you see them ever giving click data for this on this report, or do you think it's just they'll sort of swerve it?
I think they're going to have to. I think they will. I think they will. But I think it will come with a few caveats attached.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they very
and probably,
sorry.
no, probably they'll add a few more KPIs from the world of AI search first, like, fan outs or brand mentions, citations, all of these things which they say are influential in AI search. Clicks would be interesting, but wouldn't play to their strength, I think.
Yeah. The other point to mention here is in GA4, they've also released a new channel, AI Assistant channel, so that can directly give some information as well. So Google themselves are giving some direct information. I think it's fairly top level at the moment, but yeah, perhaps more to come.
Sorry, Dan, just back on that. I think the click thing is going to be interesting, because I think in order to monetize the channel, they're going to need to do something around clicks, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
They very early on set the precedent, didn't they? They were like, you're going to get fewer clicks, but it will be more qualified, and so like it shouldn't impact revenue. And I think that was sort of a nod to the narrative to come. But you're absolutely right. Like once people start paying for the visibility, they're going to have to give something to qualify.
Cool. So here's a brief look at Glara and how we help you with those new KPIs. Our view on AI search has 3 steps. We think about it in analytics, optimization, and discovery. And on analytics specifically, we help you understand where you are standing right now. So we help you track your brand visibility. How frequently is your brand mentioned in answers, and compare that to your competition? Of course, only when you plausibly could have been mentioned. So for example, for a beauty brand, if someone's talking about beauty products. But we also help you tie that to real money. So on the next slide, you see the business impact. We connect to your Shopify store and Google Analytics, your Google Search Console, and we pull out transactions that had been influenced by AI conversations, essentially. And we show the real AI traffic through referral sources through GA4. And that means visibility is not just a standalone vanity metric, but it ties to this channel as a revenue channel. You can drill down even deeper on the next slide and look at how frequently are various products mentioned. You can understand the conversations in which they've been mentioned and start working on spotting gaps and where you should be showing up, where you aren't currently showing up. We have some more product shots later, but handing over back to Daniel for now.
Yeah, I think this granularity of data is so good, and particularly when you're like, it is at the moment sort of testing what works. To be able to see like before and after what works is so valuable, because say Google's giving some information, but it's nowhere near the granularity you need to really test and optimize a website with all the changes that are going on. So no, it's very interesting. Cool. Before we move on to that's all great, but what do we actually do about it? Are there any questions on sort of measurement tracking side of things?
Yeah, so Dan had a question on keywords. If we're moving away from keywords, then how can a new brand or startup compete? So what are the non-negotiable foundations for a new site going online without a big paid budget?
Yeah, actually, I have a strong opinion on this, also based on the data we have. And I think it's actually quite favorable for smaller brands, because AI search actually levels the field a bit for new brands. So keywords heavily rewarded whoever has the biggest domain authority and also link budget. So if you're an incumbent and you have like years and years of reputation and backlinks and whatnot, then it would be really hard to break in. But AI rewards the best, the clearest answer, the most specific answer. So as a brand, I think you can lean into that, talking about use cases, talking about specific situations where your products are needed. If you're the North Face, for example, you're not going to cover on a PDP climbing and hiking and snowboarding for a particular jacket. But as a smaller brand, you could, build a story around a certain product and make it appear in answers for different use cases.
Yeah. I'd say like keywords they don't become redundant completely. They become like maybe just a data source to use. And I think they're always a bit of a proxy for actually like what are our customers searching for. So I think for a startup brand, like what I'll be recommending is like really understand your customers and then their customer journeys. We'll go on in a second, but what are their pain points? What are their goals? And then what are they trying to like? What would they potentially search in order to reach that point? I think because searches are now so situational, so personalized, you're basically never going to get a search which is the same. And so it's then about like sort of understanding what are the common areas that your customers are looking for and building content around that to really answer their questions. And again, I think Wlad mentioned it and Abhishek earlier, like I think then that then becomes an opportunity because a lot of these bigger brands actually aren't doing that. They're keeping it generic because they want to appeal to everyone. You can hone in on what your customers really want and how they're searching. I think that'd be my approach if you're starting up.
Yeah, sounds like a good segue. Dan?
Yeah, great. We planted some of these questions. Great. So what can you actually do to your website in order to optimize for AI search? Well, at NOVOS, we use the seed framework, which has been really useful for us to sort of understand and then explain like the areas that we recommend looking into for our clients. Today, we're going to touch upon two of these. We're going to touch upon situational relevance and enriched product data and go into a bit of detail with some examples around like how you can take this information and use it to make changes on your website. So firstly, situational relevance. Again, I sort of touched on it before, but you really want to understand your customer personas. Who are they? What are they searching for? How do they differ between each other as well? I think in the past, as I said, there used to be like one bit of content. You wanted every product to appeal to everyone. Now it's much more about understanding different customers, how they differ, the different goals they want to achieve, the different pain points they have, and then aligning your website to give them that information. And at points, I think this is almost like, but you can imply like maybe this product isn't for you, but this other product is a better fit. I think we'll go on. I think Abhishek's got a really good example of like how you use your customer information to actually optimize the site.
Yeah, so the way we are looking at it at YuMOVE is we are mining. Sorry, Dan, you can move on the slide. Thank you. Mining our own customer data in order to form our sort of ongoing content strategy. We will keep our day-to-day SEO, the tech, and also sort of SEO standard targeting. But this sort of enriches, added another layer of depth to our website. So we have a lot of communications with our customer care team, phone calls, emails, all that sort of stuff, and we use that to seed content throughout the site. So I feel like gone are the days that we used to bury customer queries in an FAQs page. The FAQs are now being asked on LLMs. And so we can use that information we can get from our CRMs across the site. We've also started doing some query fan out. So if you think of how an answer is presented in LLMs, it's you ask a question and then it sort of spreads out the answer so that it keeps you engaged and keeps it conversational. So we start to look at core topics around what we offer at YuMOVE. So for example, there in the table at the bottom, we're looking at joint care in dogs, and we can then start to split it out into what queries would look like that we then need to start to work into the site. And so a lot of the language is starting to change on our website as well when we're looking at more conversational type of content rather than just going pure keyword targeting.
Yeah, I really like query fan out, like using AI to then determine what AI is looking for. I think it's a clever way of doing it. And I think, yeah, very, very useful. Often highlights things you're like, oh yeah, sort of didn't even
Yeah.
think about that. So yeah.
And sorry, in the top right-hand corner of this slide as well, here's just some of the categories from our CRM of how some of our customer queries have been siloed, and so we had a lot of queries around ingredients, um, and so we built out an ingredient section to the site, but also started to intersperse our ingredients content within PDPs, PLPs. Yes, it's everywhere. It's about creating this sort of ecosystem of content within the site. Thank you. Next slide, mate.
Is the next one?
Yes, yep, got it. So then to further reinforce what we're doing with the on-site content, we also need to put out trust signals because we're in a very claim-heavy marketplace. We are in the healthcare space as well. So authority is required by crawlers in order for them to trust the information they're going to serve to users. So we started to use our vets uh, and uh, and start to put authority signals and trust signals throughout the site. And if you pop onto the next page, please, mate. We also use customer testimonials and off-site digital PR to further reinforce some of the trust. And then in the top right, we've started to use cases. We started to drop them in as well on PDPs, so that LLMs can start to get an understanding of times to serve up our product against
Yeah, I think
queries.
those use cases, I think, are kind of like a really good way to like signpost and match like the attributes that customers are searching in a way that's good for LLMs, but I think also good for customers. I think too often, like, customers are scanning a page, and if they are directly on a page, they want to scan the information, and actually having it structured in a really clear way, it not only benefits LLMs and so they can return your website via them, but actually I do think it benefits customers a lot of the time as
Yeah.
well.
And often, actually, a lot of the customer reviews we get through will include a use case, a real life use case. Obviously, with us being in a regulated industry, there's a lot of stuff we can't say on site, but we can still start to create relationships that crawlers will understand.
And you mentioned the sort of off-site side of things, building citations. I think this is another area that really like has gained legs with the introduction of AI search. As I said, like links are always important. I think links tended to be more focused on like really like high domain rating, or that tended to be like the sort of the goal. Whereas I think with AI search, it becomes more about being a niche authority, and so being cited in publications that are seen as like an authority within that space. In this example here, this is kind of like where you really want to get to, is like you yourself are being cited because you have the on-site content and are seen as an authority yourself. Then your brand is also being mentioned in other publications which are being cited. So then you've got, the sort of visibility you have from this search is huge because you're hitting the publications that are being cited, but you also have the information available to be cited yourself. So I think, yeah, huge, like a slight deviation from links. Like it's not necessarily all about links, which for a long time in SEO it has been. Still take a link if it's there, but that being cited in publications that are big within a space and can be very different between niches as well. I think it's quite crucial to say is like it is super important now.
Yeah, I think since doing digital PR, which we've been doing for maybe about a year, just over a year, we're starting to see we're now ranking a lot more for those best of type terms, those sort of superlatives. And they're not terms we've targeted, but I think the sheer fact that we are now being published elsewhere, I think we're gaining those wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, and bigger citation studies, AI search citation studies, they show that those listicles, so the top 10, whatever, they have the biggest impact on AI search. But self-promotional listicles, so if you create that yourself as a brand and put your products in there anywhere, even on position 5, and you're trying to make it seem objective, is actually punished. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then the other thing about or interesting insight from those citation studies is that I believe 30 or 35% of all citations in ChatGPT have barely any or no visibility in traditional search. But they are indexed. They just don't appear anywhere on the first 20 pages, and they're used as an answer or as a source in answers. Cool. So briefly, we break down visibility by category, not just on the brand level, on a product level. So here you can see in which categories you're winning or lagging versus your competition, and you can spot weak categories. You can set them up by use case, for example, or by audience as well. On the next page, you also see that we're breaking down citations. Yeah, exactly. So you can understand what are the sources that are mentioning me. You can see if you want more visibility, where you should be working towards. So which partnerships, PR partnerships, you can track this for your competition as well. So this is just a nice way of breaking down into where ChatGPT, Gemini get their information from.
Yeah, it's really interesting because often, having dug into it for a lot of clients, like you do get the big publications a lot of the time. You're like, okay, but then you do get some really niche publications that via just like the traditional methods, I just don't think you'd target, or definitely not prioritize targeting. So it is like a real interesting shift. And as I said, like the differences between categories in who's being cited can also be really different. So again, it's not enough to sort of target the same old publications you've always been targeting. You also need to think like, who is an authority within this space? I think a really interesting shift, and to get this information is really valuable, and like above what we'd normally have if it was just like traditional SEO. Cool. The second area to dig into is enrich product data. As we sort of mentioned before, that product pages are becoming more and more important. And in order to maximize your AI visibility, you need to be focusing on maximizing your product page visibility as well via enriched product data and really specific and detailed information on product pages. People are searching in ways like this. We mentioned like they are mentioning specific attributes which they're looking for an answer for. And you want your product pages as much as possible to be sort of signposting answers to these. Doesn't mean you need to signpost every single possible variation, but they're often common sort of queries that they're trying to get answers to across lots of different searches. So, for example, here, this then ties up nicely, I think, to some work that Abhishek's been doing, I guess, a lot alongside NOVOS at YuMOVE to help to really signpost those attributes.
Yeah, I think we've worked through various iterations of this comparison table, and we used Claude AI to scan this and decipher whether or not it could read what we were trying to convey. And it provided some really good recommendations, and I feel like this will evolve again, but it was a really we try to enrich our data on our PLPs with this sort of UX friendly element, but also within the schema as well that we mark up on product pages, so that crawlers have a real deep understanding of our products. But then that's also further enhanced and reinforced by customer reviews and some of the wider content we publish on site.
Yeah, I really like the sort of intra-product comparisons. I think it's a really nice way to to show LLMs like the different attributes of your different products, and also to like distinguish between them, which again I think previously sites generally didn't like to do, to kind of say like maybe this product isn't for you, this is a better fit.
Yeah.
I think this is a really nice, and as you said, making sure it is available to LLMs as well, like is also a tricky but crucial element of it as well.
Yeah, it's often the balance between getting the UX right and getting what's right for the crawlers to understand.
Yeah.
Yes. So all of this is exactly why ecom needs a specific solution for AI search, whether you do it yourself or use an agency partner or software like us. It's really important to understand that in general, you have one brand level visibility metric on like Google or Ahrefs and so on. But in ecom specifically, with hundreds or thousands of products, SKUs, you really need to understand how is every single product showing up as part of my answer. Because if someone's asking, what is the best running shoe? It's cool and nice for Nike if Nike comes up as part of the answer, but Nike is working towards specific products being shown and shoppable right there and then. The next point on competitor tracking, it doesn't really make sense for most brands out there to be tracking one set of competitors for everything. Just to stick with the Nike example, they can compare themselves to Adidas, for example, or On in the running category, but in outdoors, hiking, they have the ACG line, and their competitors would be the North Face and the likes. And when it comes to optimizations, in general, blog optimizations or optimizing how you appear on Reddit and answers and so on is nice, but the majority of benefits in ecom comes from working on your product catalog, on PDPs, product comparisons, as we've just seen, a great example. So ecom, you really need to think about specific vertical adjusted solutions.
Now, we spent a lot of time talking about the on-site elements, which are obviously crucial. But I think an area that we haven't focused on yet, but is also really, really important, is a sort of I guess like back-end elements of your website as well. If you're on Shopify, I think one thing that is really key to do to make sure your sort of back-end product information is aligned with what LLMs are looking for and will continue to look at is making sure your products have their category meta fields assigned. Shopify sort of rolled this out at the same time as Google, in partnership with Shopify, released their Universal Commerce Protocol, which is a way that sort of CMS can speak to LLMs that can also speak to checkout providers, ultimately to allow for like the full checkout process and purchase to be delivered via LLMs. But I think the timing of it is not a coincidence, and like this type of information will be really useful for LLMs to understand like how products are categorized, what they should be returned for when someone asks for something very, very specific.
And I think on the feed side of things, so Google Merchant Center being the example used here, it allows us to provide Google with some really granular attributes, which then allows it to answer some really complex queries. And I think the other thing with the feed is it gives you the recency as well. I think when agentic sort of evolves and is a bit more mainstream, showing a product as being sort of in stock might win you that purchase. Whereas if you're relying on a crawler crawling your site, they might have crawled it yesterday when the product was out of stock. Whereas the feed is direct, 100% up to date. And so I think it really it provides a lot more information. It's a lot less static than relying on a crawler to scan your site.
Yeah, I know we were chatting about this yesterday, and then I think recently I think it was maybe in the last week, Google have released even more attributes, which they're calling like conversational attributes, which is things like Q&A and that type of information, which historically has been very much like the on-site front-end element, but it does show that like Google is looking for that depth of information via feeds as well, which yeah, I think Abhishek, you were saying that like they're always adding bits. Like you
Yeah,
can never
yeah.
take your eye off them.
I think in the last 6 months they've added so much more to the product schema that and to Merchant Center that is, yeah, you got to sort of keeps you on your toes. Really keeps you on your
Yeah.
Yes, obviously this is super important, and that's why in the optimizations part we heavily lean on this. So we help brands optimize their product descriptions, feeds, JSON LDs, meta tags, meta fields at scale. You can see here one example of how this is being filled in, and on the next slides you see grouped tasks per product or per product category. You can track your progress and how you evolve over time. And then just to visualize this on the next page, you see a customer of ours, Polaroid. They're doing an amazing job at writing emotional, well-written copy. They have a strong brand voice optimized for their human visitors or human shoppers. And of course, buying a Polaroid product has this vintage, retro, very emotional feeling around it. But an AI visiting the PDP cannot answer many questions. And that's why if they optimize their feed and their JSON LDs and schema and so on, and add not only the bare minimum, but add things such as use cases, for example, or information on dimensions of the camera, all of a sudden ChatGPT will be able to answer, yes, of course, this is a great gift, or this is a great travel camera. It's light, it's small, or it's has a certain use case that you're looking for.
Yeah, I really like that. We've been doing a lot of recommendations to our clients around like, yeah, best for, which I guess is similar to use cases. Like this is best for these scenarios, which again massively aligns with how people are searching. Very situational, very specific, and generally like again isn't historically like something that's called out because people want to appeal to everyone. Whereas now like niching down.
I
Yeah,
think it's important to align the attributes you're feeding into Merchant Center, just making sure that information is also replicated on your website within the structured data where available.
yeah.
Just for consistency across both.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That the on-site content, structured data feeds should match as much as possible. Again, we were discussing the other day, like it'd be interesting to see if at some point Google or LLMs in general kind of pick one and have that as like feeds are like the main thing we're looking at. Or I imagine on-site will always be there to some extent. I'll be flabbergasted if it's not, but it'd be interesting to see if there's like they do go like this is the main thing we look at and these are other elements, or whether they just stick with you need all these different elements and they all need to agree with each other and talk to each other, make our lives hard.
Yeah.
Perfect. Before we summarize, I saw we got a couple of questions in.
Yeah, I think Ash has a good question. So he wanted to point out that a lot of schema data can be rendered after the original HTML payload if you're using dynamic tags from Shopify, etc. So just because it's in the source view doesn't actually mean that it's there. Shopify BigCommerce teams are pretty bad for this. Vlad, any insight on that one?
So if I understand correctly, you're saying just because you see the schema in the browser, it doesn't mean that the bots actually received it. Because Shopify and themes inject JavaScript after the page loads. If I understood correctly, then yes, absolutely. That's exactly why we heavily lean on relying on rendered schema, so JSON LDs delivered in the actual payloads, and then information that's delivered via UCP and API. So Shopify catalog, for example. I have a slide actually on the to like a very last slide. That's in ecom specifically. You shouldn't be relying only on SEO, and also you shouldn't be relying on your websites as a fallback. But in ecom specifically, there's this middle layer, feeds and APIs, ChatGPT and thanks for jumping forward to the slide. ChatGPT, Google, Claude, they like data in a structured format, and that's why APIs, protocols, and so on are more important. And your website on-site, I think that's my take, is going to be a fallback in the future. If a customer asks, okay, please double check, or please visit this website, or take over my browser in Chrome and navigate. But other than that, I think feeds and APIs are going to be the preferred way.
Yeah. Ash mentioned that was the correct understanding. So thanks for answering, Vlad. And then maybe one more from Alina. Might be a good one for you, Abhishek. Could you give some examples of how personas could be used more in terms of improving and updating the content?
Yeah, sure. So this probably leans into the query fan out work that we've been doing. We've been using personas because we've got quite a broad range of products with quite a broad range of use cases. So we've been seeding content across the site based on these personas. We do a lot of research. We've got a lot of customer data, not just from within organic, but also within retention with our CRM team and all that. We gather it all together, create these personas, and then create different intent type content to appeal to all intents really across the site. And then we also lend sort of share content with organic social, paid social, to appeal to those personas. That answer it?
Yeah, I think so. It's really that, CRM data and the info that you have already being so foundational to how you proceed with your kind of AI visibility content strategy.
Yeah.
So well answered. We do have one more question, but I think I better let you guys get on to the summary and we'll get back to it at the end.
Sure, there's only a couple more slides, so we should be able to get around to it. So in summary from me, search behavior has changed. It's not going to go back to what it was, so we need to adapt to that. With that in mind, traditional search priorities are still crucial. Your tech, your content, your digital PR and links, they're still absolutely foundational, but the focus does change slightly, as we discussed today, slightly more on PDPs, slightly more on the depth of information and specificity of information you're giving to different customers, different personas. And AI search is ever more becoming a brand discovery play. So the metrics that we've relied on in the past won't be the metrics that necessarily will determine success in the future. Much more about being visible when your customers are making decisions versus just chasing those clicks. To summarize, AI results are a combination of your own channels, like the version of your brand that you control, your on-site content, your feeds, your structured data, your off-site content, which is what you earn via links, citations in publications, mentions, and that's kind of what you want to portray your brand as. And the final element, which we didn't discuss today, because I think it probably could be a webinar in itself, is the sort of social / off-site review side, which is what your customers see your brand as. I think how you are appearing in LLMs, how frequently, and then how positively you're appearing in LLMs are a combination of all three. And so you need to be thinking about how to optimize all three to really get the most visibility and positive visibility that you can.
Yes, I mentioned this already. Not gonna go over it again. Just keep in mind that there are some people out there who say SEO is dead. It's all AEO now. Don't listen to those people. But there are also people who say SEO is everything. It's all SEO essentially, and there is nothing new. Also, don't listen to those people. The truth is somewhere in between. SEO is the foundation, but on top of it, you need to optimize your feeds and APIs, and then also as a fallback, work on your HTML and pages.
Perfect. That brings us to the end.
Cool. Thanks so much for attending. Really appreciate you spending this hour with us. If you want to check out Glara, scan the QR code on the left or take a screenshot. There's a free trial for everyone until the 20th. You can connect your store and you'll see your own visibility, product data, and so on. And much, much more. We're releasing on a weekly basis new features. And also, if you want to learn more on this space, there's the NOVOS AI search Substack on the right. Subscribe, read, comment, like, share. And that's it. If you have any other questions or anything that wasn't answered, then feel free to send us an email, jump on a call.
We've got a few minutes. Is there any questions left from the live Q&A? We might be able to just squeeze a couple in.
We do have a question from Dan, and that is, how do fan out queries differ from people also ask snippets in Google? Are topic clustering and content pillars still the way to go in briefing content teams?
I still use content pillars. I think to sort of gain a volume of I think having a volume of content which targets a cluster of keywords is still something that is foundational to what AI will bring to the party later. Sorry, Dan, you gonna?
I completely agree. I kind of see things like query fan out as like helping to make sure your content pillars are as complete as possible versus like being a separate thing entirely.
Yeah. And I think people also ask is a variation on your keywords or your question, but fan outs, they really look at the intent. They decompose the intent or the situation and then go into different directions. So in a way, it's much broader than people also ask.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Nice. Emily also asked for the link for Shopify conversion rate data. We will send that to you after the webinar, Emily. But guys, that's all of the questions.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Vlad. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Kathy. I hope you've enjoyed. And yeah, any questions, as Vlad said, please do file them over afterwards. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.